now? Can we take him now, then get him when he's full strength? I'll take him either way. But you just went off a MASH list.
The whole team.
I mean, come on. That's when you want to get them, maybe right now.
Yeah, I want them fully healthy because I want them to feel the wrath, and I want us to be fully capable of playing and not under the sanctions and fines.
Okay.
I want that too. Brandon Ingram will replace Steph Curry for the All-Star game. Unfortunately, the 10-year veteran, good news for him, for Ingram, who's averaging 22 and 6 per game. He steps in. That's great. Signed a 3-year, $120 million extension with the Raptors back in February of 2025. Curry misses his 4th consecutive game last night with the lingering issue known as runner's knee. He's going to sit out the All-Star game.
Oh, man. You talking about another hit to the All-Star game. First of all, they having a hard time keeping people entertained because we know the dunk contest and what it used to be. Now you take Steph Curry out of the game, one of the biggest names out of the game, man. It's going to be hard to get viewership for that thing.
Yes, it will be interesting. The world's greatest pickup game, as they like to refer to it as. Yeah. Jason Tatum is practicing, but says that it doesn't mean his return is imminent. He's just out there running around. Today is 39 weeks since the Achilles tear, so it's been a long journey, and it's the progression of rehab. That's the next step. Doesn't mean I'm coming back or I'm not. We're just following the plan. It's just another step.
It's been 39 weeks.
39 weeks to come back from an Achilles. That seems fast.
That's really fast. I hope Brian Branch could come back that fast. Faster than that. We need him faster than that, baby.
Yikes. Last night, college hoops, number 1 in the country, falls. The Arizona Wildcats on the road, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Number 9, Kansas, 82-78 winners over the Wildcats. They suffered their first defeat of the season. They fall to 23-1 on the year. That Braden Berry's kid is something special, though. He had 25 points to lead the Wildcats. But good for Kansas. They upset Arizona. It was going to happen eventually at some point because no one's going through the season undefeated. That's just not going to happen. And then the big news of the day, can't bury it any longer, and we're going to talk more about this coming up at 6:40, also with some injury news that's coming down the wire. But 3-time Cy Young Award winner Justin Verlander is returning to the team in which he started his career.
Yes,
a 1-year, $13 million contract with your Detroit Tigers. He signed earlier today. He turns 43 years old on the 20th.
Way to go, Tigers.
That's right. Spent his first 13 years of his career with the Tigers. 266 victories, tied for 34th on the all-time career list. 3,553 career strikeouts are 8th, trailing only Don Sutton with 35-74. That's the next ladder, if you will. But he's going to join Skubal and Valdez. 1, 2, 3, nasty punch. Don't forget, Jack Flaherty there. Yep. Position number 4. And so, like I said, Jason Beck coming up at 6:40. We'll dive all into that. Now, we have an issue of what took place in Charlotte, North Carolina last night. It got physical, Lomas Brown, just the way that the guys in the 80s would have loved to have played that game. Still waiting to hear the fallout from it, but the Pistons kicked the Hornets' nest. We'll dive into it next.
Hey, listeners. Are you looking for a smarter way to handle those high interest rate credit card balances? Or maybe you're looking to consolidate debt from the holidays. The University of Michigan Credit Union has a way to help you keep more of your money.
That's right, Lomas Brown. They're helping their members get a real head start in 2026. If you move your high interest balances from another financial institution over to a UMCU Visa, you'll enjoy 0% introductory APR for 6 months.
And AB, here's the best part.
What's that?
There is absolutely no balance transfer fees. You can move multiple balances into one easy payment and even enjoy the same 0% APR on new purchases. There's no limit on the number or amount of balances you can transfer.
Don't wait. We are fee-free until March 31st. That's when this offer comes to a close. Visit umcu.org and start saving today.
UMCU is insured by the NCUA.
Paul W. Smith here, inviting you to join Kim and me next summer for a spectacular European cruise. Temperatures are perfect then for cruising in this coastal region, with ranges from the high 60s to low 80s. Together, we'll discover the beauty, history, and charm of the Mediterranean.
fat burner ever, absolutely free. Text HIM to 215-215. That's HIM to 215-215. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Paid for by Adaptive Health.
This is SportsWrap, where Michigan sports fans come to talk. Sponsored by Elite Diversity Staffing, Hudsonville Ice Cream, and University of Michigan Credit Union. Here are your hosts, Lomas Brown and Anthony Bellino.
Welcome back here to Sports Wrap with the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR and the Big 1050 WTKA in Ann Arbor. Danny Cahalan behind the glass. Lomas Brown. Bad Lomas Brown. Lions legend. I'm Anthony Bellino. Great to have you with us. So last night, the Detroit Pistons were taking on the Charlotte Hornets, and it was a game that had a little bit of a throwback to it, ladies and gentlemen. We had a little bit of everything that Detroit Pistons fans fell in love with, and we have been saying it even when they were only a 14-win team. This is a team, Lomas Brown, that you can fall in love with, and especially when J.B. Bickerstaff took over as the head coach, right? And I got into an argument earlier with an individual about J.B. Bickerstaff, and I defended this man's honor like I was a bannerman in Game of Thrones.
Oh,
right? Like they were raising the banners. I unsheathed my sword and was ready to go to combat. So I just hope Coach knows that.
He does now.
There was not going to be any slander of regular season success for Coach Bickerstaff on my watch. I'll tell you that much. This entire team, right? You look at the way that last year, his demeanor on the sidelines, this year, his demeanor on the sidelines, but especially early on, the way that he was orchestrating and conducting. And now watch him on the sidelines and then watch the rest of the team. They've taken on his persona. They've taken on that personality. They play both sides of the floor. They play team basketball. They play for one another. There is nothing about this Pistons team outside of the fact that we just added Kevin Huerter and he couldn't throw the ball into Lake Erie. It's early. Don't worry about it. It's early. It's only a couple games. Ain't no problem.
Okay.
There's no problem.
Okay.
That ain't no problem.
I hope not.
That ain't no problem. Right?
Not.
He was 4 for 6 against the Knicks. You know, he finished with 8 points. Last night, he was 0 for 2. What are you going to do? Like, it happens. We're going to get worked out. I'll take 8 points in 8 minutes any day of the week. Right? It's just going to take some time. We'll give it some time.
Okay.
We'll let it marinate.
Well, I'm glad you are.
Yep. I'm going to let it marinate because I know a lot of people are looking cross-eyed. It's fine.
Yeah, including the big guy standing across from you.
It's only 2 games.
Okay.
But last night, what had happened was Jalen Duren had 15 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and a steal. He was a plus 14, and this is in the third quarter where he's only played 20 minutes at this point. Moussa Diabate's got a big donut going. Now, he's a Michigan Wolverine, right? I'm a Michigan employee, but this is the most fair and honest show in America. I haven't seen Moussa Diabate do anything like this since he was in a handshake line against Rutgers, and our coach was busy slapping trainers and stuff, right? So it's been a long time since we've seen anything like this. Moussa lost his mind because what had happened was Jalen Duren was going up for a shot. Moussa comes down across the forearms of Jalen Duren. And then Jalen Duren turns around and says, "Excuse me, young man. Are you challenging me to a duel?" That is when they went head-to-head. Had foreheads on each other.
Wait. Diabate put his head on Jalen. Jalen was just standing there. He came in head first.
So they then head-to-head like 2 puppies, right?
Okay.
And that's when the duel challenge happens. And so a smush push from Jalen Duren. It was open hand
off of me.
Yeah, please remove your sweaty brow and your tiny little braids.
Thank you.
Move them away from my face.
Thank you.
Your tiny little braids.
Thank you.
And he smush pushed his face away from Jalen Duren. At that point, Moussa Diabate turned into some sort of cartoon character and wanted to have a moment. Now, Tobias Harris might get Kia Defensive Player of the Month because he held on to Moussa Diabate because Moussa was ready to swing, and Jalen Duren's kind of like, wait a minute, is this guy really serious right now? Is this really happening? And then, JD's kind of backing up. And then Miles Bridges gets into the mix, comes out of nowhere. Miles Bridges And if there's one thing Miles Bridges likes to do, it's put his hands on other people. See what I did there?
Yes.
You do? Let me hit the. Thank you. Now, he gets into the mix. He throws a punch at Jalen Duren. Might have made some contact. And at that point, stone cold beef stew, Isaiah Stewart with ice bags on his knees, gets up off the bench like a superhero himself, runs in off the bench. And it was like you could hear Stone Cold's music playing in the background. Ends up getting Miles Bridges in a headlock and maybe lands a couple shots to the back. But it kind of sounded a little bit like, a little bit like that.
Good defensive team. And Durant. Musa really upset. I have never seen Musa. Oh my goodness! Now Miles and Durant and Stu. This is out of control. Oh wow!
Again, our guys deal with a lot, right? But they're not the ones that initiated. They're not the ones that crossed the line tonight. It was clear, through frustration because of what JD was doing, that they crossed the line. And I hate that it got as ugly as it got. That's not something that you ever want to see. But if a guy throws a punch at you, you have a responsibility to protect yourself. And that's what happened tonight. You go back and watch the film. They're the ones that initiated crossing the line. And our guy had to defend himself. I mean, you see it one way. I see it another way. Obviously, again, I repeat, we don't want to see it get to that point. But when you go back and watch the film, they ran multiple guys at JD. JD and Stu consider themselves to be brothers. And if you run two guys at one guy and, you've already crossed the line, human instinct tells him to protect his little brother. Again, I hate to see it again, but that's the nature of what happened. So, I hate it for Stu because of the things that are going to follow. But, again, we weren't the ones that crossed the line tonight and initiated this.
No. I mean, he said a lot of things there, right, AB, that kind of autonomizes what this team is all about, kind of puts it in perspective of what type of team we have here in Detroit. And it resembles some of the bad boys' characteristics. It resembles some of the go-to-work Pistons with the toughness that these guys have, the bond that these guys have. And, Beef Stew's going to take, he's going to take his medicine after the game, especially coming off the bench.
Can't leave the bench.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that the NBA stresses, not leaving the bench. But I do think the Abate, he instigated and started the whole thing, just like JB Bickerstaff is saying. They crossed the line especially when he came in head first at at Jalen Duren. What was he supposed to do? So it got out of hand. But I'm glad. What I'm happy about most is that the guys were able to recompose themselves, right, and come out of there with a nice victory against a very, very hot Charlotte Hornet team who had won 9 in a row. And for us to go in there and snap that win streak, I thought it was great. I thought it was great composure, like I say, for those guys to come back after something like that and really, really get it done. And, now we have a team that, to me, can beat you through adversity. Mm-hmm. They could blow you out, and I mean, we could beat you all kinds of ways, AB.
We might not outshoot you.
Right. We could beat you physically. We could out-rebound you. We could do all the little things that we need to do as a team to win the game. And like I say, I'm happy. No, I'm not happy about, like Coach Bickerstaff say, what's going to come, the suspensions and whatnot that we know is going to come. But I'm happy the way they were able, like I say, to recompose themselves and get that victory.
We could beat you. We could beat you up.
That we could do either or.
And allegedly, Isaiah Stewart, as he was walking off the floor, was heard saying, yeah, I got drafted to Detroit. What the bleep do you think I got drafted to Detroit for?
All right. The enforcer.
I mean, you knew he was a little off with the LeBron James thing and when he was running. And I know that some people make a mockery out of that. The minute he did that, I was like, this guy's here for as long as he can physically play basketball. Yeah. And I felt like he was so misused by the previous regime, and what they were trying to do with him didn't make sense. Stop trying to put a square peg into a round hole. Yeah. It just doesn't. It never made any sense. This guy has an unbeatable motor. He brings the same sort of attributes that Ben Wallace did, right? A little bit undersized, relentless on the glass, incredible teammate, a physical presence, an intimidating sort of enforcer, X factor there, but has the ability to shoot it as well. Yeah. I just don't need him to shoot 5 threes a game. That's all I've ever asked. Dan can attest to this. We worked together for years. I just don't need him to shoot 5 threes a game. If he wants to step out and fire a couple up because he's wide open, by all means, stretch the floor, and people know he can do it. So you make teams have to respect that. But he is the quintessential teammate in a role that is somewhere like 18 to 25 minutes a night, spine Jalen Duren.
Well, you could see when he's had to step in there. He put up his career high in the game.
31. I was there, the Bulls.
Yeah, he put his career high up. Every time he gets his opportunity to kind of be the main guy, he seems to always step up to the plate or step up to the court and become that main guy, the guy that we need, the guy that we can feed and expect offensive production out of. So I have no problem with Big Stu. And I like the attitude that he brings to this team. Like he said, man, nobody's going to push them around. They're not going to get pushed around. And he's one of the main guys, him. And I like Tobias Harris, too. I just like, Unc is the man. I'm glad they didn't move him. And we'll see. I'm still on the Herder thing. I'm still kind of –
give it time.
I want to see. AB, we let a 20 – how old was Jalen? Jaden Ivey?
22.
We let a 22, 23-year-old guy go, so yeah, Herder's gonna have to grow on
Herder's
me.
Gonna have to hurt him?
Yeah. He's gonna have to hurt, and he's gonna have to grow on me, too.
Okay. Cade Cunningham, by the way, 33 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. And during the course of the game, all I could think to myself is, you know what Charlotte's missing? Because they're a really talented team. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of talent. And they're coming. And Charles Barkley made a comment the other night, and all the guys laughed at him on the show. I'm like, you guys aren't even watching basketball. But Charlotte's they've got some talent. They've got some excitement there. Replace LaMelo Ball with Cade Cunningham and watch that team.
Ooh.
They don't have, because they're the same age. You would never know it.
Yeah.
Because LaMelo Ball running around like a child. Cade Cunningham is an adult. They lack leadership.
Yeah.
And that's what Miles Bridges is supposed to be.
No.
It's not what he is. It's what he is supposed to be.
I've never seen that, AB. I don't even know how they got that. I've just never seen that. Even back at Michigan State, I just have never seen that out of Miles Bridges. So
sometimes you got to be that dude. We're going to step aside. We're going to talk to that dude on the other side. Jason Beck will join us. We've got some breaking news on the injury front that is going to affect the Tigers' starting rotation. We also made a move to bolster our starting rotation. A lot of pitching happening. Did they make enough to make a legitimate run in 2026? Jason Beck will tell us next.
Meadowbrook.
Brown and Anthony Bellino.
Welcome back here to Sports Wrap on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR and the Big 1050 WTK in Ann Arbor. The Lions legend Lomas Brown. I'm Anthony Bellino, Danny Cahala behind the glass. Time now to welcome in, covering all things Detroit Tigers over at MLB.com, our good friend Jason Beck. And Jason, I would like to ask you how you're doing, but we kind of already know you're probably busy putting pen to paper or right now just punching the keyboard. So we really appreciate you taking the time because it is very, very busy. And who would have thunk it, just a few days into February, we'd have this much news regarding the Detroit Tigers. Are your fingers exhausted yet?
My fingers are still getting into regular season mode, but it's been an abrupt transition. That's for sure. I feel like I've been writing nonstop since lunch with the occasional break to watch a little bit of the Chelsea match this afternoon on TV.
Oh, Chelsea. A little funny there. Okay.
Yeah. So, Jason, tell me, what does the signing of Justin Verlander, not only what does it mean to the team, but to this community, just to the young players out there, the organization? What does this full circle signing of Justin Verlander mean?
It means a lot. I think it's something you kind of wondered about the longer JV stayed out there on the free agent market. It made some sense. If it was just on its own to compete for a job with some of the younger arms, maybe it would be looked at in a different context. But then when you coupled some of the other moves here and, the Tigers being opportunistic late in the offseason, it's funny because, you look at last offseason and they moved early to sign Alex Cobb, and that arguably cost them an opportunity to kind of snag Justin late in the market. This time they waited a little bit. They had a need here late in the offseason, and they moved aggressively. And I think there's a statement there, but also, there's a sentimental aspect to it that he has a chance to. I think I wrote this in the story I sent in earlier this afternoon. When they traded Justin to Houston in 2017, it was kind of a statement that the rebuild had begun. It was the official start of the rebuild movement that ended up taking a lot longer than a lot of people would have expected. And I think by bringing him back, it's a statement of just how serious the Tigers are about trying to make the most of this season and trying to contend.
I'm glad you brought that aspect of it up there, Jason. It's 1 year, $13 million, a $2 million base salary, and $11 million in deferred payments beginning in 2030, which we will get to. But I wanted to ask you, how much of this is a signal that this team is all in, and how much of this, when fans are being excited, like, oh my goodness, okay, we're bringing Justin Verlander back. Sure, it's not the same level of Cy Young award-winning Justin Verlander. So, fans being excited about this, is this more about the projected performance and what he means to this team? Or is this about sentimental, nostalgia here, that this is the perfect time for the homecoming and what a great send-off this will be and everything coming full circle and everything else outside of baseball?
Well, I think the Reese Olson injury created a need there. And, I think it's not a coincidence that they moved quickly to sign Framber Valdez shortly after that injury. But then to provide that additional depth with Justin and round out that rotation, that's a lot. And I think, from a performance standpoint, when you look at what Justin was able to do down the stretch last year in San Francisco, that means something. And it was, that makes it kind of a mild surprise that he hadn't signed elsewhere by now. But, to be able to plug him in at the back of the rotation, that's a lot. And, there's not a whole lot of rotations that are able to boast that combination of experience and recent performance. And I do think that when you look at what the Tigers are doing on the TV end, there's not that guaranteed TV money anymore. By going with MLB and doing, they're doing, it's going to be available on all the cable and satellite providers, or it's expected to. But you're also going to be doing a direct-to-consumer streaming option. And you can't say that what they've done over the last week or two hasn't added to a compelling product. That's it. They are more entertaining now than I think they were a couple of weeks ago. Not that they weren't entertaining before, but the return to JV, that's a heck of a storyline right now.
Yeah. So where would you put this lineup if you think about this potential rotation of Scooble, Valdez, JV, Flaherty, Mize, and then the youngsters in Melton and Job? Where would you put this lineup at? And is this enough, you think, to get us over the hump? I know a lot of people talked about maybe adding a bat. That's what we needed last year. But do you think this lineup can really get us over the hump this year?
I think the Tigers have been pretty steadfast in insisting that they believe the young hitters are going to take a step forward and that they want to preserve the opportunities for them to do that. Even if it means, not signing some of the bigger bats that they were linked to. They placed a priority on starting pitching early this offseason, and they stayed with it. And they, by not moving on some of the early deals, they were able to be opportunistic when they needed to. And I think somebody brought it up with me last week after the Framber deal that it felt a little bit like when the Tigers signed Prince Fielder late in the offseason back in 2012, and that it was turns out it really was a reaction to an injury here too. When they signed Prince, it was a reaction to the Victor Martinez injury. Here was a reaction to the Reese Olson injury. Having that available, when you look at the money that's going into this starting rotation now, that's a big chunk of change. I haven't done the math yet, but when you consider average salary of $38.5 million for Valdez, Scooble's going to be making 32. Flaherty's at 20, I believe. Mize is at is not cheap either in his final year before free agency. And now you add JV on 13 million, you're getting into over 100 million for that rotation. Like that's a good investment there in trying to build the rotation. And it's a big statement for a team that has thrived in part on openers and bulk relievers and mixing and matching. This is a statement that, we're going to leverage this starting pitching here moving forward and not try to put so much on this bullpen, which, when you look back, shouldered a big workload the last couple of years and might have shown some signs of wearing down there down the stretch last season.
Jason Beck, MLB.com, staying here with JV and what this pitching staff, what this rotation will mean, but what could he potentially mean to the development of a guy like a Tarek Skubal, or to, and we know that obviously Jackson Jobe, his announcement came with that of Reese Olson, and the fact that Reese Olson has been placed on the 60-day IL following the right shoulder repair. The surgery was performed on February 2nd. Olson will be out for the 2026 season. So with that tweet from the Tigers PR department, they also put out that the right-hander Jackson Jobe has been placed on the 60-day IL as he continues his recovery from Tommy John in his right elbow for the ligament replacement surgery. My thought here is what JV could potentially bring, not only to Tarek Skubal, but then to also every other young arm that might be in that dugout, and the knowledge transfer that could exist to be able to add a guy like that, to be around some of this young talent. And maybe it's not even just the arms, maybe it's some of the bats as well, what he might be able to provide almost from a coaching and a mentorship standpoint.
I think there's value there. I'm not so much thinking about Skubal in that regard. I'm thinking more about a guy like Troy Melton, who had that fantastic stretch run. And, he's going to do whatever the team needs him to do. But, there's got to be a level of disappointment now that he's on the outside looking in on rotation. I think having Justin back could be a big influence for him because he's been that big arm. He's had that type of impact in the past, and I think he can give him some ideas there on how to improve. I think of some of the young guys in minor league camp that are going to be developing and trying to take the next steps in their careers. I think of a guy like Jaden Ham, who a year ago at this point was looking like a bright young arm on the fast rise to the upper levels of the farm system, and then had a disappointing season of Double-A year. Yeah, I think of him. I think even of a guy like Drew Anderson trying to make that transition back, after having a dominant season in the KBO. There's a lot there to like. Even a guy like Hyder Montero, although he's going to be out for part of spring training pitching for Venezuela in the WBC. There's a lot of guys who can benefit from what Justin has experienced, and he has a chance to be more than a really good pitcher. He has a chance to fill that mentorship role, which it'll be intriguing to see how that works out when you combine that influence with having Kenley Jansen in the bullpen. There's a lot to like there. There's a nice little combination of experience and talent, with young and old arms here.
Yeah, if you look at their offense now, going back to their offense, Jason, again, when we start talking about Riley Green, the year he had, and then you start looking at the young guy like McConkle, who they're expecting a lot out of and maybe getting a chance to be on the opening day roster. Again, I talked about it a little earlier. Do you think they have enough? Do you think this will be enough to, if we get down into another 18-inning game like we did against Seattle late, that we'll be able to come up with that hit, or these guys will be able to come up with the necessary hit or offensive production to, like I say, to really get this team over the hump when it really counts?
I think the talent's there. I think, yes, they're counting on guys to take a step forward. But I think when you look at, a guy like Colt Keith, he had some big improvements in terms of his metrics from 2024 to 2025. If he can continue that step forward, he has a chance to not only be an everyday third baseman, he has a chance to be a really good offensive catalyst there. If he can provide that combination of impact hitting with plate discipline, which he took big strides on last year. If you look at what you can get out of a healthy Gleyber Torres coming back from the sports hernia, if you look at if Kevin McGonigal can show enough in spring training to either make the opening day roster or earn that promotion early in the season, if he can hold down that shortstop job, that's a really nice young bat to put into that slot. Especially if you can, even if you can platoon him with like Javi Baez, where you can get there. If you can get Riley Green to cut down on the strikeouts but still preserve that power hitting, if you can get a healthy Parker Meadows and get something closer to what he showed down the stretch in 2024. Rather than him trying to come back from that nerve issue in his arm in 2025. If he can get a healthy Matt Dearling, there's a lot to like there. Are you counting on a lot? Yeah, and you're probably not going to get everything going right in that regard. But I think you should count on more going right than going wrong there. A lot of those guys who are coming back are on the younger side. They should be able to heal right. And the guys who are developing, you were counting on to develop, have shown that they can learn along the way. And we're not even talking about, okay, what if Max Clark is knocking on the door late in the year? What if Jose Rosito, takes steps forward and can potentially become that power bat for the stretch run that you can plug in, maybe a little bit of catcher, a little bit of first base. And hey, Dylan Dingler, lest we forget, was a Gold Glove catcher who was a really good bat down the stretch and looked to be learning along the way. Now that he's got his legs under him and knows what he's got to do to be able to be a day in, day out contributor. That's a big impact there. There's a lot to like about this lineup. There's not necessarily as much proven talent as some fans would like, or as much veteran impact there. But these guys have learned a lot over the last couple of years. And I think there's a lot of hunger there. And I think they're further along than some people might give them credit for.
He is the great Jason Beck. You can find him on X at Beck Jason. Read his work inside MLB.com's Tigers page. And as always, Jason, we appreciate your time so much. Thanks for stepping aside. No typing, no writing, just some talking, right? And we love that. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, guys. Look forward to talking with you as spring rolls along here.
There is no doubt about that, partner. An action-packed day. And who would have thought, action-packed couple of weeks now for the Tigers, where you get the Valdez signing, and we get the JV signing, and then boom, we get the news that Reese Olson down for the year, Jackson Jobe on the IL.
But think about it. It's a good thing they made some of the moves that they made.
Why? Do you need to sell subscriptions?
I mean, not knowing these injuries were going to take place with Reese Olson and some of the things happening. So that's good.
I was born at night, Low Brown. It wasn't last night, partner.
The thing that warms my heart.
What's that?
Is Justin Verlander is back. He is back where he should have been the whole time. I guess he had to go off and get his World Series ring, but he's back, AB. Yeah. Our champion is back.
Maybe it's a story for another sport, another guy, another comeback. What's on tap tonight? Number 13, Purdue at number 7, Nebraska ball. FS1, 7 o'clock, 2 games on NBA TV. Clippers at Rockets, Spurs at Lakers. That's all for us. That's Danny. That's Lomas. I'm Anthony. See you tomorrow. Same time, same place on the great voice of the Great Lakes. Sports, Lomas. You win with hustle, reliability, and the